Well, thank you everyone for joining. Um, we've just launched our new platform as of last week. Some of you are already users of the existing old platform, but the new platform is aiming to be a simpler, quicker way for people to get started. So especially if you're new to eHab, then this is going to be a really useful session so that you can walk through with me um, some of the key first steps that you're going to want to take to start getting value. And then every week, we're going to be doing repeats of these sessions. We'll be looking at more of the advanced features next week. Next week, we're already also running a session with Oracle. We'll be doing sessions with Safran and some of our other partners as well. I'll drop in the chat our new events page. So basically, and I'll share it again at the end of the session, but you can have that as a bookmark. And if ever you need to do any training or you want a refresher or there's new features that you want to discover, then we'll just be running these sessions all the time. And we'll always be giving you a few extra credits for joining as well. So I'll share my screen. And what I suggest is you get the platform up in front of you as well, and we can literally follow along and do this together. Because yeah, the aim of the platform is to be something that we can get up and running really simple. So this is what I just shared you, by the way, the events page. So as you can see, today is 12th. So this is one of the sessions. Next week, we're going to be going into our schedule analysis. And then actually next week as well, we're going to have two next week, we'll be partnering with Oracle, and that'll be slightly longer, 45-minute session to basically literally step-by-step go through how you put calendars into P6 from a scheduling perspective. We'll also be doing another session with them probably the month later to look at OPC and QSRAs. So if you haven't yet already, head over to beta.ehab.co and you will notice when you log in that there's a dashboard. There's a video here. So if you need a refresher, this will probably go through some of the similar stuff that I'm going to cover. But if you need to, you can just watch it in the dashboard there. And please do raise your hand because currently I can't see you. So currently just raise your hand if you want to ask a question, and I will give you the ability to unmute yourself and join in the conversation and really encourage folks to ask questions in the chat, and probably I'll just get you to ask them out loud as well so that we can have a bit of a discussion. But for now, we'll just go step by step. So the Get Started tab is a pretty good place to start. The aim of it is really to show how simple it is for you to kind of create a site and then start getting some value from these reports. So of course, the first step for us is to basically say, well, where is it that your project is based? If you already have projects in the system, then you can open this drop down and you can go and kind of find these different things. And I'll just explain how this kind of sets up in a second. But if you are new, if you are joining for the first time, then click the Create New Site. I currently don't have permissions to do that. But what you'll see when you create the new site is the ability to add a location. And basically that can be anywhere on planet Earth. So you should be able to just quickly and easily select a site. And that can be, London, New York, wherever. So what I recommend is you identify a site that is actually relevant to you. So a project that you're looking at either tendering or in construction right now. And that will take a couple of minutes to load. So if you take that action now, I'll then explain a few more other things. And then once your project loads in, then we can crack on with the follow along. So please, again, raise your hand if you have any questions. And I'll also just say that if you are on the platform at any other time, down here, there's a little bot that just says, got a quick question. So if you open that up, there is kind of a couple of options. One, you can just directly book a call with us if you want to specifically cover a topic or whatever, and you don't have time to do it right now. If you're just browsing, that will just close it basically. Or if you say, I have a question, then that will open a chat directly with me or one of the team who can help you with any issues you're having. So some of you may already have Teams chats with us if you're already customers of ours. But if you are definitely new to the platform, then definitely the quickest way to get help will be that I have a question down there. So bear that in mind. I'm going to just go ahead and open up one of my like existing projects here. So I'm just going to go for my Chicago division. And when you create your project for the first time, when you create a new site, this will just create a new site, but what you'll also notice that it creates a project and division just based off of that information. So the idea being is that as you grow within eHab, there might be divisions, multiple divisions like north, south, east, west. Then there'll be projects that sit within those divisions. So you can see my Chicago division has one project, my Anywhere project, which has one site inside it, which is, I've just called them random names, but you can call them whatever you like. And this is just a project in Chicago. So once I've selected that, once it's loaded in, and yours will probably take a couple of minutes, unless you pick somewhere like Antarctica or the Brazilian rainforest, those things take slightly longer to load. So just bear that in mind. But hopefully your projects are loading in right now. And yeah, do raise your hand if you have any questions. But that's kind of step one, is to select a site. And what's happening right now on your screen probably is that we are loading 45 years of historic data for that location, although it's actually data going back to 79. So it's going to be obviously an increasing amount of data. And what we are quickly doing is building out several kind of models for temperature, wind speed, gust speed. Currently, we have about 11 different variables. We're about to continue to launch more. We actually have 80 different variables in our database. So we're going to start to introduce those over time. And really, as soon as you've added your location, there are a couple of reports that you're going to immediately probably want to just go take a look at. So at the top of your screens is going to be like a blue bar that says claim 100 credits. So you can go ahead and claim those 100 credits. I'm also going to deposit some extra credits in your account. And everyone starts with 50 credits when you first get going. And so I'll just explain that as we go. So the first report is the historic weather report, and that will cost you 10 credits a month. Or you can, and that will effectively unlock this report for a month. Or you can unlock it for the whole year, and you can basically pay upfront annually for that. But what this will give you is basically a summary of the weather impact that usually happens at this location. So I'll just focus on the wind for a second. So and we have a number of charts in here that you can probably see. The idea behind this is to give you a high-level overview when you are just starting out on a project, when you're just thinking about starting to assess and understand a site, a location, but perhaps a place that you've not worked in before. And you can kind of, on a daily basis, see what the general trends are in that location. So this is summarizing all of the historic data. And what we're doing is weighting more recent years more heavily. So any climate trend that is occurring in that location, whether that be rain or wind speed or what have you, is being factored into that data set. So this gives you a reasonably good understanding of what, on a daily basis, the mean wind speeds are. So, pretty windy consistently throughout the year in Chicago. Obviously, it's called the Windy City for a reason. But it's also very rainy or reasonably rainy over the summer months, actually, interestingly. I think that's because precipitation is actually reasonably high throughout the year, but obviously precipitation and snow kind of makes up that as well. So what I think is a really useful thing to do here is, especially given that this is pretty cost effective, if you have sites that you need to understand more about the historical data, you can go ahead and download a print view. So right now, if you've got a site that you've just created, and if that site is something useful for you, so, a bid, a tender, or a project that you're looking at, you can grab that report, and hopefully that will be a useful piece of information that can kind of inform you whilst you're doing that work. Has anyone's site loaded yet? Or is anyone facing any problems? just conscious the aim of this is to be a walk along, a follow along, and if anyone has any questions, or I'll just very briefly stop sharing just in case there's any questions in the chat that I'll just look at. Currently no questions. So to a couple of people who've just joined, I will just reshare the links. So just in case you aren't signed up to the eHab platform already, you can sign up on those links. The idea is that this is a walk along session. I'll be repeating myself just a few times just to clarify, but yeah, this is a walk along. So the idea is to quickly show you how we can get value from the eHab platform with your free credits, basically. So this is the historic weather report. I think we've covered it. You can download it. It gives you a bit of a summary. Of course, what we've tried to do is ensure that the report itself is self-explanatory. So you can kind of show more, show less here, and read effectively exactly how that data was created. You know, we use radar systems, satellites. If you want, we can always share the full list. It's a very, very, very long list of information that makes it up. But we kind of describe the mathematical process that we've gone through to generate these reports. So we're really trying to make sure that whether you're an owner or a contractor or a subcontractor, whoever you might be, you have a way to kind of demonstrate, okay, this is a robust piece of data that I can use to inform my planning. So the next report on the list that you would be able to access is the location-based downtime summary. So again, we have a description here. This currently is an NEC template. So you'll see that we kind of describe our 1 in 10 year calculation. We also demonstrate or list the weather types that are included in this report, which are specific to the common things that are found by default in the NEC, and then also a couple of things that can sometimes be included as Z clauses. So we've tried to ensure that the information is kind of all there. And once I show you it, you'll notice that it's pretty similar to, and let me just pull up, let's just do January. Okay, so when you subscribe to this will cost you 100 credits for the month. And that effectively just unlocks it for the month. You can unlock it for the entire year if you want to, during construction process, basically get your report each month. But what is probably quite useful at tender is basically getting a few of these reports and taking a look at what are some of the 1 in 10s across this location. What are some of the patterns that you're showing? We've actually just got a request from Mark, who's on the call, which I think is a really good idea, which is to put some ability to kind of summarize this information at the top. So if you are just wanting to look historically, we're working on a table that will allow you to kind of just get a quick snapshot view. But the report, you'll notice, is probably some of you have seen the Met Office report before if you request it for a particular location, but it has the similar type of layout. So you can see a monthly summary, which basically just gives you the, for January 2025 in Chicago at the location that I've selected, what was the rainfall, what is the 1 in 10 year value for this, and then what is the long-term average. And we've got an anomaly column here. So this basically tells you how high above or below the average was this particular rainfall. So of course, a 1 in 10 is going to be extremely high. But what this is kind of just trying to demonstrate is that depending on whether you've just included for average rainfall in your plan, or you might basically, although you may not be able to demonstrate a compensation event, you may be able to kind of substantiate within your team, within your stakeholders, to basically kind of explain, well, although we didn't have a 1 in 10, we did have a particularly, it was a reasonably rainy January. And so you can if you're on the screen, hopefully you're following along, you can kind of get a sense of this if you wish. Of course, top right, you can export it. One of the things that we've also done is if you want to, you can just highlight in and zoom into. So if I just cared about wind speed, for example, you can focus in on that. And then when you export the report, it will just include the focused things that you have on screen. I'll just keep it as the all metrics for now. And similarly to in the Met Office report as well, we then show you on a daily basis exactly. So, on the 10th in January, we had 2.7 centimeters of snowfall. And these were the days of freezing, minimum air temperature. We trying to give you information that's visual, so that you can kind of make your case when you're describing and working with this data. So as I said before, it will cost you 100 credits if you have just joined, and if you haven't yet, and but by that I mean joined the platform, you should have a blue bar at the top of your screen where you can claim an extra 100 credits, which means you can get one of these reports for free. So what's again useful is that you can go back all the way back to, in this location, 1979. In some locations, we actually have slightly longer data sets. But so, yeah, if you wanted to, you could go and look at, maybe you wanted to get the Januaries of the last 3 years, or just start to pick and pull apart that data, and you can get those reports. Obviously, it takes a couple of seconds to load. So again, that's why we are going to be introducing a summary chart at the top, so that if you can, pick a start and end, and just get a snapshot of that, how many 1 in 10s have been happening. Because I was actually just speaking to someone this morning where there were 7 1 in 10 weather events in 1 year. So statistically, that doesn't quite work, but obviously it depends on how you measure it. So I think we all understand that climate change is making those what were 1 in 10 events more common. Is there any questions at this point? Does anyone have any? Hopefully, if you are following along, you've been able to get your credits, look at your historic data, and now potentially unlock your NEC report as well. Just jump in, and I'll stop sharing my screen briefly and just check if there's any questions. You have 100 credits. Yeah, so you just need to subscribe monthly, and then you'll be able to get that report. What it will mean is you just have access to it for the month, but probably for this purpose, you only need it you don't need access to it for the whole year. But yeah, thanks for sharing that, Abd. So yeah, that's one thing to clarify is, in the platform, you can, for some of the reports, you can subscribe monthly. For some of them, you subscribe annually. So for some of the more meatier features where we probably usually provide a bit more support, there's only an annual subscription. But for reports like the data report, you should be able to just let's have a look. Yes, I think Abd, this is a particular issue with your account, and I'm not sure why. So I'm apologies that you can't follow along exactly. I know we've already had this discussion. But yeah, that's a bit frustrating. So apologies for that. Liz, do you mind messaging Felipe, and maybe he can help Abd? So I'll share my screen again, guys, and I'll jump back in. So this is report number 2. It's the NEC report. You unlock it on a monthly basis, and effectively what it means is you can then, for that whole month, you can get as many of these reports as you want. At the end of each month, so probably on like the 3rd, 4th, 5th of July, the next month's report will appear. So June's report, I think it arrived on the 3rd of June. It kind of sometimes depends on weekends, because that basically the data from the previous month is being compiled and being checked against lots of different other data sources. So usually it will appear here. So if you, for example, you're subscribing for the year because you want to get that report every month, then you just need to come back in a couple of days if you are checking and it's not there yet. So that's the second data report. If you've been able to claim your free credits, then you should have been able to get this. Again, there's a download, print, view, so you can get that information as well. And if you want to learn a bit more in detail about how that report is generated, then you can click the show more, and that will describe to you how that report works. The final thing I'll show you, because this is only a half an hour quick follow along session, and we've got 7 minutes, and I want to give space for questions if there are any, is the weather rules report. So again, this is one that you can subscribe monthly or annually. So if you subscribe monthly, then it will just cost you 30 credits. So again, if you've got your 50 plus 100, you should be able to get one of each of these reports. And this one's pretty useful in the sense that you can choose from our list of 150 categories. I can also create a new category. So let me just create like a, let's just go new rule here. I'm going to add that category. And I need to pick it from the list. So let me go find my new rule. So if you're following along, remember this is the weather rules report, and you can create new rules, but you can also just search for whatever rule you think is relevant. So I can go and find asphalt, for example. Oh, I think I deleted it actually, so I'll just go drainage. So we have a bunch of activities that are already in here. They have default thresholds assigned to them. And so the purpose of this report is to allow you to not just get historic data, but is to get historic data and fine tune it to the specific activity that you're going to be doing on your site. So I'll just give one brief example. Cranes lifting, you can open out this rule and see all of the different thresholds that make it up. So for example, we've got some wind gusts at 12 meters per second that are going to have a 12%, 10%, 13% impact in January, February, March. And that that dips in the summer, but it can kind of continues, remains about static throughout the winter. And that's just historically what has happened. The main impact in this particular instance is, okay, we've set this to -5, but we could change this to -10. So the purpose of this report is that you can rapidly change the rules and then very, very quickly, easily get an output which tells me, okay, my cranes and lifting, if I want to go in and see what that change has done, it's kind of generated a significant drop in the impact, almost half impact. So you can play around with this. You can add as many thresholds as you want. You can have as many in the report as you want. You can, in theory, select all categories, all 150. It will take slightly longer to load, but bear that in mind. You could do that. You can also export it as an Excel if you wish to and play around with it like that. And then, of course, you can download it as well. And so, again, this is a report that we think is super quick to learn how to use. It should be pretty obvious to all of you how to use it. If you're having any problems, just raise your hand. You can add categories, name them whatever you want. Obviously, I've just created my new rule here. So I'm going to add a threshold. I'm just going to go daily rainfall cumulative. I'm just going to go 5 millimeters. If I add that, and what the weather rules is going to tell me is basically how frequently does this 5 millimeter rule break in this location. So in January, 9% of the time, in June, 27% of the time. So it's a quick ability to look at category types and understand how they might be impacted by weather. So these are the three things that are really, really quick and easy to use. They are all kind of data focused. They're all very low cost. So they're pretty cost effective. So you can subscribe to them monthly if you wish. So just to remind you again, we've got the historic weather report, which costs 10 credits, which is the equivalent of £10 to unlock it for a month. So if all you need is just to quickly grab some data, you can do that here. And we're going to be adding more weather types to this report over time. There's the NEC report, which is 100 credits, equivalent to £100. If you just want to unlock it for 1 month, you can do that. And then you can access all of these reports in here. And then the final of the kind of reports that you'll be able to access right now with your free credits was the weather rules. So this is 30 credits a month, again, equivalent of £30. So if you just need to grab some data, get an understanding of impact on your site for whatever location globally that you're working with, then you can do that with this report. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. There's literally a couple of minutes left for questions. Okay, so Sean, you're saying, so you aren't just locked into one report like the 2025. Yeah, so basically, Sean, that's a good question. When you unlock the module, and this is with any of the modules, you are unlocking it for a time period, and then you can use it unlimited in that location for that month. So if you, for example, if you get the NEC report for whatever location you've created, London, for example, you can, for the month of June or for the next 30 days, you can download as many of those reports as you want, and that will just cost you the £100 or the 100 credits that you've probably just claimed. If you wanted to pick a different location, or if you wanted to then download those reports once it's July, then you would either continue subscribing, pay £100, or change your subscription to this other location. Or, for example, if you're then on a live job, you can subscribe for the year and then you get a discount on those credits. So I think Met Office reports usually are about £200. And apologies if you're not UK based, but yeah, they're usually about £200. So even if you just subscribe monthly, ours are 50% of the cost. And if you subscribe for the year, then they're 65% of the cost. Is there any other questions from anyone else? And of course, Abd, I'll jump on with you and help you to make sure that you get up and running. So apologies for that. If you are an existing user, there is a bit of an issue if you already have permissions set up in a different way. That might mean that you can't access these things. Yeah, Mark, that's a good question. So in the weather rules, yes, in the weather rules you can. So if I quickly share my screen again. So if you're on the weather rules report, for anyone who's following along, let me jump to the weather rules, and yeah, hopefully it's clear. You can get to any of the reports from this reports drop down, or if you are on the home screen, you can use the get started guide and you can quickly jump to one of the reports. But at the top of each screen is a configure your report section, so you can always change the location here if you want to quickly use the same feature but change the location. And then, Mark, to your question, at the top of the kind of box that is the probability of impact box, there's the risk matrix actions. So for example, Mark, in your case, you might have an organizational default risk matrix. You can load that in here. So that will automatically pull in your activities that you've provided to us as your defaults. And you can import and export the matrix here. So what this will effectively do, folks, is you can get a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet is basically exactly the same as this. There just isn't any visual, and it will just say, okay, cranes lifting, what are the thresholds? You can then change the thresholds, and you can load that back in here. So if you wanted to kind of en masse edit your risk matrix, you can do that by deleting activities. The key, though, is it will tell you, it will give you a little red warning if the format has changed. So this is, you can't really change the columns, you can't reorganize them. That's just purely because then we can't read the data as easily. So just make sure if you are exporting and importing that you bear that in mind. Is there any other questions? And does anyone want to ask a question out loud? I'm conscious of time. Yeah, Carlos, that's a really good question. So yes is the simple answer. That's going to be one of our future sessions. So I'll really briefly share my screen again and touch upon that. So in the future sessions, I'll show you some of the things that we'll be able to do. So we have a couple of integrations. We can integrate into P6 and Asta. I actually haven't unlocked this module myself. So we can integrate deterministic calendars into P6 and Asta. Or you can input them into QSRA solutions. So we integrate with Safran, with Acumen Risk, with Nodes and Links, and with OPC. We technically integrate with Oracle PRA, but obviously that's not been supported for about 10 years. We list the different ones here, by the way, so I will just copy that into the chat for you, Carlos. But we'll be running a session next week on P6. And what I can do for you, Carlos, is I'll send you an email with our Safran demo as well, so that you've got that information. But yeah, exactly as you're describing, Carlos, you could have your categories, you can set your rules, and then the calendars will be created based on your schedule. So if you upload your schedule, we'll also map the activities to your plan automatically, so that when you're then in Safran, you don't have to kind of do any manual matching. Okay, folks, I'll stick around for another couple of minutes. Feel free to, again, ask questions in the chat, or if you have anything that you want to share, let me know. But that's the end of the session. I'll send around a recording, and we'll be doing more of these follow-alongs. So hopefully you found it useful. Please give me feedback if you have any thoughts. But thanks everyone for spending the time, and yeah, looking forward to the next one.